Excellent.
How are you?
Excellent. I'm honored. I've got George Helmy, Chief of Staff,
Hey,
Joe Kelly, Deputy Chief of Staff, Tim Hellman, Deputy Chief of Staff. Joe's in charge of the economy. Tim's in charge of intergovernmental affairs, and Michelle D'Angelo on our side has convened us electronically. And it is always a good day to be, even virtually, with Collingswood.
Thanks, Governor. Thank you. Thanks for taking the time. And more importantly, thanks for everything you've been doing this last year. It's been crazy times, and I really appreciate your being accessible. Back early days, we had issues about privacy and trying to keep track for ambulance calls and our public safety officers. And you were I hate texting, but you were so helpful in getting everybody involved to take care of that right away.
Jim, my honor, and I mean that. And you've got one of the great communities in the state, one of the great Main Street drags of any community in the state. And we love standing with you. And you respect labor. And I see Rob Lewandowski is on. Rob, nice to see you. Leon is in the house. Good to see you, man. And good to see everybody else up there.
Governor, great to see you. And thank you.
Can I take you through, Governor? I got a couple issues. This is our pandemic recovery team, a great group of people. It's only when you ask out in the community you find out how many talented people there are. But I got a couple little different things going forward. We're all, we've taken all the steps and done everything coming to here. But going forward, trying to come out of this, one of the things we're looking at doing is a community needs assessment, and separately a business needs assessment. And as we're working, we're trying to pull a university in to help with that. But it seems as though it might be the kind of thing that through DCA, or that if the state were to standardize something, that maybe data we collect would be more helpful on a larger scale.
It conceptually sounds reasonable to me. I don't know how George, Joe, and Tim feel, but that seems like it makes sense, Jim.
Let me, and what we would love to hear is a little bit about what assistance there is with businesses. I want to talk about rental assistance, but with businesses. We've got a big restaurant neighborhood that the changes coming May 19th aren't going to help a lot because our square footages are so small that maintaining the 6 feet, they're not going to have big increases in occupancy. So they're going to still be looking for some help, and just wondering if you could run through with us a little bit about what's coming.
You go with that. So Jim, let me start and then maybe ask Joe and Tim to jump in. So we see this the exact same way. In fact, it's the reason why we rejected going from 50% capacity to 75% capacity, because the 6 feet, which is a CDC requirement, is the one that bites on capacity a lot faster than the extra 25% limit. So in restaurants, at least, we hope that bar seating as of tomorrow and the elimination of capacities on the 19th, that combination is helpful. The biggest non-money piece, and George, I don't know if you've heard anything out of the White House this week, I personally think they're going to reduce to 6 foot. It's the question of when. They've done it for schools, for kids. I think they'll do it more broadly. I'm not making news, but I believe with all my heart that's going to happen. That will be a big step. That's probably the biggest step we could take other than eliminating it. On the financial side, Joe, do you or Tim want to go through what's available and what might be available?
Sure. So I think there's 2 buckets to think about. One is relief money that is either with the EDA right now or more coming down the pike. And that's just straight grants for all types of businesses, specifically money that is kind of earmarked or cordoned off for the sectors that have been hurt the hardest. Think micro businesses, personal care, restaurants, the performing arts community as well, because I think, as you guys know, theaters and the like create foot traffic and drive commerce in a lot of our downtowns. So there's money that is with the EDA, 200 million right now, and then we'll probably put some more in there soon. I think an announcement is coming up in the next couple of weeks, so stay tuned. But those resources are out there, and then simultaneously, in the Economic Recovery Act that the governor signed into law in January, we put $50 million in there for what we're calling a Main Street Fund, and that will actually be to help businesses kind of reposition themselves post-COVID. So think about things like you need to buy a new espresso machine or deep fryer, or you're a dry cleaners and you shut down and you want to convert that space into a new kind of retail experience. There are funds there to help with those initial startup costs and that capital expenditure that often is a hurdle for small business owners. And then I would just mention there's the traditional suite of products that the EDA always has: low or no interest loans, loans that have delayed amortization, so that say 3 years from now you're going to actually have to start paying them down. And if you're a small business owner and you're pretty confident what you can achieve, say you're a restaurateur, for example, you're probably going to be in the black and making money in 2 years, and you can pay down that debt before any of the interest hits you. So there's a lot out there. I'm happy to connect you with the EDA so that your businesses can shop for support. But again, it's two buckets. It's relief, and then also looking long term about how our main streets can kind of pick themselves up and get dusted off.
I think, Jim, it would make sense for Joe and Tim to have either this group or some subset of it do a follow-up call with the Economic Development Authority and go through what Joe just said in some level of detail.
That would be greatly appreciated. And we're just finalizing. We're going to do the other piece of the recovery is we're going to do a job fair for our businesses like later this month. We're just finalizing setting that up. So it's that next step of, okay, we're going to get them some money, get them some help to get open, and restrictions are loosening. Trouble is a whole lot of them lost their employees and can't get people back. And anything that can be done from a more global, from a broader standpoint to have a job fair day or something in a larger regional area would go a long way, because that's a real practical issue that they've got.
So we hear every single day, many times a day, small businesses, restaurants, etc., are having a hard time hiring people. And some of it gets blamed on unemployment benefits. I think that's overstated, to be honest with you, but that's probably part of it. But there's no question folks are having to really scrounge to get the workforce they need, and in many cases paying up to get it. So there's clearly going to be some element, I think, of passing that on. I mean, people question, is there going to be inflation as a result of all that we're going through? I'm here to tell you there's going to be inflation, because people are going to have to pay up for their workforce, and they're going to have to find you're already operating on razor thin margins. You're going to have to find a way to pass that on to the consumer. So for my taste, there's no question that's going to happen. I don't know on the job. We should come back on the job front with these guys in terms of any best practices we're seeing on job fairs or other.
Yeah, there was a program, Jobs NJ, which is our workforce development program that was unveiled before COVID. Obviously, things have changed a little bit post-COVID, so we're going to be refreshing that plan. We have a lot with DOL and with the corporate community where they want to help fill kind of the skills gaps, and make sure that there's a clear pipeline for folks to get plugged into the folks that are hiring. And so I think, to the governor's point, as the economy heats up, we realize we have to be there to kind of steward folks into the right positions.
Okay. Can I shift this a little bit? Just one other huge area that is like keeping me up at night, because I just don't know how we're going to deal with it, which is rental assistance. And I'll just give you one little example. I know you're dealing on a larger scale. In our little town, we have a 1,000-unit apartment complex. During CARES, during all the different programs, we kind of re-geared staff to help people complete applications for rental assistance. it's such a difficult process. We ended up getting assistance for 8 units, okay, out of 1,000. With whenever, if the end of June is going to be when it's, the season opens up again, the 1,000 unit complex has about 30 to 40% of the people are $10,000 to $15,000 behind in their rent. Like they're not going to be able to catch up. So just any thoughts about what might be coming for that so that we can start to gear local resources to try to fill in and help that?
George, do you want to hit that?
Yeah, sure, Jeff. So, Mayor, as you may know, in the ARP had about $600 million that'll be coming to the state directly for rental assistance. We're still waiting on U.S. Treasury guidance, which we hope is forthcoming in the next 7 to 14 days, though candidly, we heard 7 to 14 days 14 days ago. Once that comes out, that's direct assistance. And the governor is already in conversations with leadership and obviously the lieutenant governor, who all of this falls under VCA, and maybe additional use of the direct state assistance for rental assistance. As I'm sure you've seen, the data coming out of the Federal Reserve of Philadelphia about how many New Jersey homeowners and renters are behind is, troublesome and worrying is an understatement.
Okay. All right. So once you get more information on it, then we can look to see how we're going to start implementing it all.
Correct. And Tim, who oversees intergovernmental affairs, will be your point of contact, I assume, with Jesus. Tim?
Yeah, definitely. And Mayor, just quickly, one program I would also plug that I think is underutilized is LAHEAP for those behind on their energy bills. I believe there's still federal money on the table through, I think, June or July 30th. I'll share those details with you offline so you can get that out to your residents.
Okay. Okay. I'll just plug you a little bit of Collingswood, DVRPC, just a little side benefit of redevelopment. DVRPC came out with a study a couple of months ago talking about how the Delaware Valley towns weathered the pandemic and really gave us like some nice marks for having more residential housing tied into the downtowns. And it kind of like lays out how nobody expected this, but how it'll be a bit of a benefit for pandemic, shutdowns, takeout, all the crazy stuff we've been through for the last year.
Interesting.
Yeah, it really was a sidelight we just never anticipated when things really go wrong. I've been told that people submitted questions, but I don't know that that's so. But I'm just like asking the rest of my crew if anybody has any questions. I know our school superintendent, Dr. McDowell, is on.
Hello, Doc.
Hello. Yes, I'm on.
How are you? You guys, Dr. McDowell, are in hybrid mode. Is that right?
Yes, sir. We are. We have roughly 72% of our students, K through 12, coming back 5 days a week. Students are in school generally from 9 to 1 in person.
Got it. And the balance of the 28% are in for some lesser time?
Yes, we have probably about 20% of those children are in hybrid. So they're in 2 days. Actually, we're now at a phase of rotating every other week of 3 days of in-person instruction. And then we have the smallest percentage of families that are still fully remote.
Got it.
Okay. Anybody else? Anything? I know the governor's got a couple things on his plate.
That's right. We got a few minutes, Jim. If people have questions or comments or advice.
So, Governor, it's Rob Lewandowski, and
Rob,
I'm going to keep that labor hat on. And as much as, we're talking about a job fair to support our local businesses, I also know the great work that's being done at the Department of Labor to sort of connect people to the new jobs, to the industries where there's a desperate need, and looking even more forward from that. And I just wanted to say, yes, we're working on filling the jobs in our community, but we also have community members that would probably love to know what's available externally. And I just wanted to say that you'll have a partner in Collingswood in as much as we need to connect residents with, with jobs and pre-apprenticeship programs and all the training programs that you offer, because, obviously we're looking insular to our community, but looking more outward, we certainly want to help connect the dots.
That's great, Rob. And Rob Angelo, I think, has done a really good job. And you all have been right there at the table with him on workforce development programs and connecting the dots, which is a great way to say it. There are several industries that are being stood up literally from scratch in our administration. So they would include, with some very significant South Jersey aspects. The biggest one is offshore wind. And that includes, as you know, Rob, both the installation of the reality, but also we hope the building of a significant amount of the supply chain. And that's literally not mostly South Jersey. At this point, it's 100% South Jersey. I would say, Joe, FinTech as it creeps into sports betting. FinTech, sort of middle and back office for financial institutions. Jersey's the king of that, and it has been. But then migrating onward toward sports betting is new, exciting, and we don't want to just be the place where folks bet a lot of money, but where they connect. Again, the innards of the industry are there. Thirdly is cannabis. So that's something that's going to be, a reality and come closer to reality in the months ahead. I'd say fourthly, Rob, and this includes all aspects of film, television, and digital, which is, as you know, a big labor industry. That's a big organized labor industry. So those are 4 examples. By the way, Jim, some of those may well have some presence in Collingswood. I don't think you'll have offshore wind in Collingswood unless I've missed some big body of water as I've driven through town. But you could have pieces of all 3 of the others. And
we've had some of the TV and the film already. Yeah, Governor. Yeah,
you're an obvious place to film something, and I say that a lot. You're a community that to me jumps out in that respect.
It's apparently a great place for Lifetime horror movies.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. Okay. We had one that was not the usual drill. It was a little bit shocking.
So I shouldn't be looking for you on the Hallmark station.
Not yet. No, not yet.
Okay.
We're working on that, though. We're working on that.
But Rod, your point again is well taken. It's not just what you could do in and of Collingswood. It's what dots we can connect your residents to that have a regional presence as opposed to necessarily a township presence.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Anybody else on the crew?
Jim,
Doctor?
the pandemic is not over, and the underpinning of all the jobs and so forth that we're all desperately seeking is contingent on making continued progress. So how do we get to the 80% mark of vaccination and such in our area? What are additional steps we should be taking?
Governor, this is Dr. Kavuru. Dr. Kavuru, that's what
Dr. Kavuru, you probably could give me the answer, but I'll tell you a little bit of what we're doing. So our objective, and again, you've got the medical knowledge that I do not have. Our objective was to get to 70% of our adults completely vaccinated by the end of June, with the recognition that somewhere 10 to 20% of us beyond that have had COVID and can add to that 70% to get to some community broad. I don't want to use herd immunity, but that variation of that. I still believe we'll get there, but it's also true that we knew the supply-demand imbalance would swing the other way, and sure enough, it started to swing the other way in the week of April 19th. And the good news is we had spent months putting together what I would call an offensive set of steps So in other words, not in the mindset where people would come to the vaccine, but we would take the vaccine to the people, either literally or figuratively. So we unveiled a whole package of programs this week called Operation Jersey Summer. And it's about 10 or 12 elements, and we're going to add to them over time. But it includes the stuff that I think you'd want us to, which is reaching into hard to find places, homebound, homeless, elderly, young people who think they're invincible, using mobile vehicles, working with the business community, working with bodies just like yours. Jim, I don't know what the take-up rate is in Collingswood, but one of the things we announced on Monday is an ability now to give hyper-local transparency on data. To literally say, okay, this is the state of vaccinations in Collingswood, and to leave it to you all to say, okay, we're not where we need to be. We think, because we know the community better than you do, Murphy, these are the 3 or 5 steps we should take. George, anything you want to add to that?
No, they covered perfectly.
Yeah. So we still think, Doctor, we'll get there, but it will not be easy. And we will not get there if we lay back and expect people to come to us. One last piece of this, as opposed to big hubs, which have been hugely effective. By the way, we've got 3 in the South Atlantic, Gloucester, Burlington. Those have been machines. We're now localizing the effort, going essentially from a hub to a hub and spoke mindset, where the mega sites would still exist, but they frankly exist to supply a whole series of local efforts into the communities.
Well, Governor, I can tell you, when you talked about the date where the supply, kind of passed that demand, we felt it here because we literally had put a lot of effort, had a few staff people dedicated to getting people that needed vaccines, needed rides to vaccines. And over the last couple of weeks, we've gone from, we had a wait list to now we have, Rite Aid calling us saying, hey, we need bodies, and we don't have anybody else on the list.
Yep.
So we have felt that shift locally too. It's reaching the ground.
Do you have any breweries in town?
We have one. We do. We have one small brewery. Yes.
Are they part of our shot in the beer program?
I don't
Not
think
yet.
they are. Yeah, I don't think they are.
Because I would have held off getting my shot if that was the case.
So, Rob, I said the same damn thing. If I had known the first shot in May would have gotten me a free IPA at one of these breweries, I would have waited. But I stupidly went ahead. So, Jim, that's a specific one. We should talk to you, Joe or Tim. Let's try to get them signed up as part of the program.
Okay, we can do that. We can do that, Governor. And then we'll
Because
get you back.
I mentioned this. You got a lot of young people who think they're invincible.
Yep. Yeah. No, I know. We know. We're going through the same drill, trying to get them all out and get them vaccinated.
Thank you so much for having us. Keep up the great work, everybody.
Hey, and Governor, the last time we were together for a few minutes, you grabbed a cup of coffee here in town, and as you travel the state, my guess, over the next several months, you're welcome back anytime. Come see us, all right?
Jim, I promised you, and then I promised your sister who interviewed me, that I would get back with my wife and have not just a coffee, but a meal in Collingswood, and I owe that to both of you.
You got it. You got it. Thanks so much for the time. Great job.
Keep up the great work, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, folks.
Be well.